Good evening, y'all. It's Joe here with Average Joe's Model Bench. Get things started tonight with Trumpeter's Russian Armored Mine Clearing Vehicle, the BMR-3. Quite a big kit here. Looks like almost 1,000 parts in this bad boy. I'm going to do a basic kit review of it. I have taken the time tonight to go ahead and take everything out of the plastic and look things over a little bit. I find the wrestling of plastic wrappers to be slightly annoying, but we'll start out with the basic haul. This kit is based off of a T72. Minor differences between this one and Ming's BMR-3M, meaning that Ming's kit's based on a T90 and this again is a T72. Again, most of the differences are internal. The upper superstructure is slightly different. But this one here, molded in the kit, does have some pretty nice welds on it. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Hopefully you can see some of the weld detail. Doesn't have all the weld detail it possibly should. There could be a little bit more on the sides, where the side panels get welded together. But for an out-of-the-box kit, it's pretty damn decent. Again, pretty typical T72 lower chassis, lower hull, with the upper plate. Couple parts for the gun brackets right there. Again, some pretty decent weld marks, weld seams going across. This kit is offered in two basic standard variants. You got this one here in the darker green, and basically the major differences between the two is this one here has an add-on armor plate on the front, where the other variant has the traditional T72 V-style bow on it. Again, some of the differences to point out between this kit and Ming's kit, outside of the obvious ERA explosive armor that is on Ming's kit. Again, the upper structure is slightly different and the tracks are different. Other than those three things, there really isn't much difference. Obviously the ERA on the Ming's kit looks pretty nice, but they are very similar kits. So no decals in this kit, but probably going to do this version here. Sorry about the glare, trying to help that out. Do this version here with the add-on armor plate on the front plate. But you do get some glass parts, which I haven't opened for obvious reasons, because I don't want to scratch them up. I'm not ready for them yet. There is a basic sheet of photo etch. Pretty decent stuff. For the grills, a lot of tie-down brackets for on the side of the stowage, on the side of the tank, fuel cans and whatnot. But fairly decent. There's some light brackets, so enough to make it pop just a little bit. It does come with poly caps, metal tow cable, and some vinyl hose. And there are two different size chains that come in the kit for on the front mine roller. So those are just some of the goodies. The instructions are so far typical Trumpeter instructions. I've gone over these a few times. You can tell a little on the dirty side. Sorry about that. Zoom out a little bit. Haven't really gone through everything. If it's anything like most Trumpeter kits, I'm sure there's going to be some parts that are mislabeled. But starts out with the wheels, just like most armor tanks, the lower hull, adding suspension components. Going in, adding the rollers, all the suspension arms, and the armor plate. Unfortunately, that armor plate does hide a lot of detail, but it is part of the kit. Having you go ahead and put the road wheels on, idler and drive sprockets, which I normally would leave off just for painting purposes. Now we're getting into the option where you have your two different style front ends. The one with the add-on armor and the one with the V-plate. So, I was figuring out this camera, so bear with me a minute if you would, please. But yeah, so step 4 and 5 go into the build-up of the upper hull for what they call Type A, which is the armor. And then step 6 and 7 are for the V-style plate, which is obviously slightly different. Photo etch grills go into place on the back. Lots of little itty bitty tie downs. Step 9, they're having you start into the mine rollers. There are some differences between Type A and Type B, so you will have to kind of follow along and pay attention to that. The mine rollers, looking at them in the kit, there are some pretty decent size ejector pin marks on them, but by the looks of things, everything should fit alright, and the ejector pin marks should be covered. So that's not a real concern for me at the moment. In the instructions, one thing I thought was kind of odd is on the two arms, there's nothing that supports the two of them, and they're having you glue a chain between the two of them. I think that step needs to be done much later. I guarantee that chain's going to come off or break, and you're just going to be a lot easier to build them separately than having them chained together so early in the build. Very detailed kit. Most of this variant that I've seen does have the external fuel tanks on it. Some of the BMR-3 Ming's kit, a lot of videos and pictures of it do not have the external fuel drums on the back of it. Tracks are individual linked. They look okay. I think there could be better ones. I'll get to that when I'm showing the parts off. It does look like in the tracks where the guide horn is, on the outside of it, does appear that there's a slight sink mark in every single track link. Fortunately, there's no ejector pin marks or anything like that that need cleaned up. It's just that sink mark that would quite honestly probably look fine with a little bit of weathering, but there are better track options out there. Going on to the fenders and the side skirts, here's some of the PE that needs bent up. I think that's going to look fantastic when that's built up. These side skirts are beautifully molded. On the real vehicle, these are made out of rubber, and they're not 100% straight and no molded in a curvy manner. So I think those are going to look fantastic and are very nicely molded. And again, it's having you put on side skirts and fenders. More of the photo etch brackets that go along the external storage and side fuel tanks. Step 20, they're having you start on the superstructure. At least what I would call the superstructure. It's not a turret, so. But another part that I saw that's going to need some cleanup is this bracket which holds the smoke grenades, smoke dischargers. There are some pinholes on the back of that, and from looking at the instructions, I do believe those are going to be visible. So that's going to need cleaned up. Up here we have the routing for all the fuel lines, or the vinyl tubing which is provided in the kit. A very nice touch. Again, just continuing on with the superstructure build. Got the crane, the lifting apparatus for the mine rollers, which do come off in real life, and there is a storage bin behind the superstructure to hold them in place. And then here's the storage brackets I was just mentioning. Another difference between the Type A and Type B is the routing of the cables on the front. The Type A, they're crisscrossed. Type B, they go straight on. So that is another slight difference in the kit options. And then final assembly, and it should be a pretty good looking model when it's done. Get looking at some of these other pieces, parts here that come in the kit, and there are a lot of them. But we'll get started. Here's the lower armored bracket. It does have some pretty nice weld beads on it. There's even weld detail inside these little notches for the road wheels. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera, but it is there. It's not the most detailed, but it is there. Now we're going to go to what I have right here. There's two of these guys, and these are the ones with the mine rollers. And I don't know if you can see it, try and turn it a little bit for you. These big, huge ejector pin marks. There's a couple more over here, but those should get covered up and be out of sight. These ones here, for the brackets that hold the mine rollers, those might need touched up, but doesn't look like we're talking rocket surgery there. There is a lot of slide molding in this kit, as these four pieces right here are all slide molded. I believe it's slide molding. It's either slide molding or side molding. I haven't quite 100% got a verified answer on that, but there is a fair amount of that in this kit. There's two more of this sprue, which has the fuel tanks on it. There is some minor flash inside the drive sprocket here, but overall very nicely molded. We've got, move that out of the way just a little bit for you. There's some pretty small detail parts up through here, and there again there is over 1,000 parts on this kit, so it's going to be a little time consuming to put together. It's definitely not going to be a shake and bake Tamiya kit. But again, one of the first things I would do is probably glue the fuel drums up if you're planning on using those, to allow them to have plenty of time to dry. That way you can putty and fill the seam. And we got two more of this sprue here. And again, there's more of that slide or side molding done on these pieces here. A little bit more right there. These are actually the little brackets here that hold the spare tracks on the side of the superstructure. Some of the storage bins on the side. But again, there's two of those. Give me a minute. There's one of these. This is, I believe, E1. And here's the big difference between the two, the armor plate or the Vive bow. There is a little bit of flash up in here on the bottoms of these headlight brackets. A little bit more of that special molding that they like to do nowadays, which definitely saves on some of the part count. I'm sure this piece right here, which is part of the lifting apparatus or crane, would be 5 or 6 more parts than it is, just because of the way they were able to mold it. So I mean, even this little bracket here has the notch out on it. I don't know if you can quite see that or not. Get the camera moved so you can see it. But that's saves on the part count. And then these are the brackets that hold the smoke dischargers. And on the back side of it, there's about 5 ejector pin marks. They all appear to be sunk in. So they will probably need some putty, because unfortunately I'm afraid they are going to be visible. And we go on to this one here, which again is just a touch of flash inside the drive sprocket. But got some of the rear grill deck, which I'm not sure is going to actually be used. I think that's already molded on. No, that one is going to be used, I'm sorry. Got some of your suspension arms. There are a fair amount of spares in this kit. I mean, from my understanding, this is based off a standard T72 kit. And there are a lot of different spares available in this kit, just for the different variants of multiple T72s. With that being said, there's 2 sets of these side fenders, which are pretty nicely molded. And then these are the side skirts that I was talking about, how they have a wave to them. And you can see, especially on this sprue gate here, how that wave is there, and it's molded into the plastic with a slight wave that maybe you can see there. But I thought that was a very nice touch. On the back of the fenders, I guess, where the rubber bud flap would be, it is slightly deformed on both sides to give a more rubber-like appearance, which is a fairly nice thought. And again, this sprue here also has a set of fenders on it. Same thing with the rear mud flap being deformed slightly, which Makes it look a little nicer than normal. And then we're going on to this sprue here, which has your side fuel tanks. Looks like a bowl plate, an attachment for the mine rollers, more suspension components. So there's definitely a lot in this kit. We're going to go with the wheel sprue this time, and there are 4 of these. And it appears to be slide or side molded. Somebody please correct me on that. Would like to get it correct on this side for all the smoke dischargers. And then there's more on this side for what appears to be some of the tow hooks and some of the other smaller pieces. These wheels do have the little notching on them, like most Russian wheels do. It's very faint, but it is there. So that's a nice touch. And there are 4 of these. So you got some of your other suspension components. Move those slightly out of the way. But yeah, it's very nicely molded, and I'm sure in just about any other Trumpeter T72 variant kit, that's going to be a sprue that carries over. Got another sprue here. Let me just kind of slightly move that over. Got some real fine wiring. I kind of believe that might be for the some of the fuel lines. The machine gun is molded with the barrel open. Some more of your suspension components. These grills here I don't believe are going to be used. They're molded onto the chassis. So you're going to have some spares. Getting near the end of the bottom of the box. Here's a sprue with the mine plow arms and all of the assorted attachments. Some really fine parts there. That should be fun, and some care should be taken to remove from the sprue and keep clean. Got another one here with more of that molding. So some really fine detail parts here for the B variant. I was very impressed looking at this part here. Try and zoom in on it just a little bit. Wrong way again. But how you got just a little bit of wiring hanging down in there, and the way that's molded. I mean, that's some very nice work on the mold designers and the engineers that build this kit. And we're getting close to the bottom. And then this one here with some of the top hatches, some more of the small detailed bits. The ditching log is kind of a letdown. It doesn't have much detail at all on it. The one side looks better than the other. But I'm actually almost thinking about going outside and seeing if I can't find an appropriate size real log to use. But we'll get to that when the time comes. Just move some of this so we don't have a loud crashing banging sound here in a minute. And the final bit to the kit are the tracks. And there's, I believe, 7 of these. And they are nicely molded for what they are. To me it does appear that there's a heavy sink mark in the center of every one of them where the guide horn is. All the attachment points are only 3 attachment points per link. There's no ejector pins on any of them. So overall, they're not bad. Most of them are going to be hidden by the side skirts. But that's about one of the only flaws I see with the tracks. Do have a set of Zastava tracks that are link in length that I might substitute, just to, they don't have that sink mark in it. But that's the review of this kit. We're going to get started building it here real soon, and I'd like to post some more videos on it of some of the build progress and some of the tips and tricks I have, and if I have any issues along the way, I'll get those pointed out. My first video on this new channel, and I definitely don't want to be a know-it-all, or if I get something wrong, I'm not embarrassed to admit I was wrong or have somebody correct me. So please comment, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great evening. Thanks a lot.